All right, hello everybody. This is my attempt to make some sense out of the NFL playoff seeding scenarios. So there were some complications due to a canceled game between the Bills and the Bengals. Off to the most important news is Damar Hamlin. Fox News, once it comes up, is speaking to the team after being so they're getting major positive news and health updates, so that's the most important thing. So now that we got that figured out, we'll go to the brutal but nonetheless interesting stuff. So I was going to tackle the NFC first, since that's a lot easier. Let's just say that. So for different playoff scenarios, I'm going to go basically team by team, every team that's not eliminated, where they could end up as far as seeding goes and how they could get there. So we'll start with Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're the easiest. They're the fourth seed. No matter what they do or what anybody else does, they don't move. So Tampa Bay is the fourth seed. Also, same deal for the Giants. No matter what happens in their game or any other game, they're the sixth seed guaranteed. So those are the two easiest. Now we're going to tackle probably everyone else. So this page 2 I have here is from ESPN. It's the NFL playoff machine. So you can go in here and here's all the games that are being played with the two teams, and you can pick hypothetical outcomes just to see, what would happen. Like, say we have Chiefs Raiders, so let's just say we pick the Raiders to win, and then the Bills to win. See, the Bills would jump the Chiefs as the number 1 seed, and you can even put ties in for any of these games and see what happens. So if they both tied, Kansas City would maintain the number 1 seed. Then you could pick that for all the teams. You could have your own predicted outcomes, your own hypothetical outcomes that you want to try out and see how everybody lines up, however you want to do it. And if you want to just reset it, you hit clear. That will put everything back to the most recent results. And I'm going to guess after the games today, they're going to probably lock in these results between Chiefs, Raiders, and Jaguars, Titans. Those are the two games this Sunday afternoon at 4:30 and 8:15. But I just wanted to show this, and I'm going to go through each playoff scenario. So the NFL seeding scenarios. So Eagles, we'll start with the Eagles. The Eagles could be either the 1 seed, the 2 seed, or the 5 seed. And the way that can happen is in here in this NFL playoff seeding scenarios document I saw, the easiest path is they win or even tie against the Giants, who don't really have anything to play for as far as seeding goes. Or they have the Cowboys lose and the 49ers lose or tie. So if even if they lose and the Cowboys lose, they get the division, but they would also require at that point for the 49ers to also lose. But winning would get them the division and the number 1 seed. They could take number 2, kind of like what I was alluding to before, that they lose, Dallas loses to give them the division, but San Francisco wins. San Francisco would then leapfrog them in the division standing. So we could see that here. We could just make the Eagles lose. We could say the Giants win. We could say, Washington wins. And then San Francisco wins. And you'd see the 49ers would go to 1, Eagles will go to 2. And then the only other scenario is they could get the 5 seed, and that's basically they lose, Dallas wins. So Dallas would get the division at that point, and Philadelphia would be the wild card. And the only wild card seed they'd be eligible for is 5. So that kind of covers Philly. The trying to bring up the chart that I made. Okay, 49ers, they could go 1, 2, or 3. So we kind of covered them a little bit. The 1 is having them win and Philly lose. 49ers get the 2 seed. They could win, and if they win and Philadelphia wins, Philly would take the 1 seed over them. If they tie and Minnesota loses, that would stop Minnesota from leapfrogging them into number 2, so San Francisco will get to number 2 there. Or if they lose, they'd have to hope for Minnesota to also lose so that they could keep the number 2 seed. And their only really path to the number 3 seed is they lose or tie, and Minnesota. Well, if they tie and Minnesota wins, and if they lose, and then Minnesota would just have to not lose. They would either win or tie. So that's that. Vikings are only eligible for 2 or 3. They can't get the 1 seed. So, yeah, Minnesota can only get the number 2 seed if they win and have San Francisco not win, lose or tie. Or if they tie, they'd have to hope the 49ers would just lose. More likely, they're just going to have to hope for them to lose. They get the 3 seed if they just lose. Really. They could tie and have San Francisco tie. Or San Francisco even just wins. So even if they win, if the 49ers also win, they're in the 3 seed. So they're guaranteed to be in the 3 seed if they lose or the 49ers win. I hate all these tie scenarios. So we'll just maybe keep it simple, make mention of it. We'll just say that. So they lose or 49ers win, they're in the 3 seed. So they're likely to be there. Okay, the Bucks, I got them in red because 4 is the only place they could go. Cowboys, they got a path just like the Eagles to 1, 2, or 5. A little harder for them to get to those higher seeds versus what the Eagles have to do, because to get the 1 seed, they have to win and have Philly lose and then have San Francisco lose or potentially tie. 2 seed, let's see, they got to win and Philly has to lose. Yeah, that would get them the division. And then if San Francisco won, San Francisco would leapfrog them as the number 1 seed, so Dallas would fall number 2. This is more straightforward. Yeah, a loss just or tie would put them in the 5th seed, or just the Eagles win, or basically if the Eagles don't lose, win or tie, they're going to go to the 5th seed. Okay, 6th seed is the Giants, and now the 7th seed. So all these teams here have clinched a playoff spot. They're guaranteed to be in the playoffs one way or another. The only seed that's open to be filled really is between the Packers, Lions, and Seahawks. And this is pretty straightforward. I'll cover all 3 of these at once. For the Seahawks to get to 7th seed, they need to win, plus the Packers need to not win. Or they could even tie, and then you have to have Detroit tie, and Washington gets thrown in the mix with a loss or a tie. Okay, I haven't even seen that scenario yet. Yeah, Detroit has to have all these things happen. They have to have a win, and then the Seahawks don't win. If they tie, they'd have to have the Seahawks lose. That would mean that they would be, if Detroit tied, them in Green Bay would be 8-8-1. Detroit would have the tiebreaker because they would be 1-0-1 against Green Bay, and Seattle would be, with a loss, would be 8-9. So you'd have 8-8-1 between Packers and Seahawks, and 8-9 Seahawks between Packers and Lions, and then 8-9. I'm confusing myself. Yeah, Detroit and Green Bay would be 8-8-1, and Seattle would be 8-9, and then Detroit would have a tiebreaker. The other scenario is Detroit ties, Seattle ties, and Washington wins. Okay. For Green Bay, they just got to win. That's it, plain and simple. Tie does them no good. If they just win, they get the 7th seed. So that is pretty much all of the NFC's playoff chances. So you see right now, I have the lines in with whatever is set. I thought I cleared this. There we go. Okay, so yeah, currently Seattle's in that spot. So Detroit, really, if Seattle were to win against the Rams, they play earlier, that would mean Detroit can't possibly get in, even with the win. Only the Packers could. So if the Seahawks win, Detroit gets eliminated, and it's between the Packers and the Seahawks, the outcome of that game. If the Rams were to win, then literally you can see here I'm switching to Lions win their end, Packers win their end. So this game will kind of determine whether the game is just a straight up playoff game or whether it's between the Packers and the Seahawks. And that is the NFC. Okay, now on to the problem child, the AFC. So I guess just to sum it up, 3 divisions are clinched between the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals. The AFC South is still open between the Jaguars and Titans. And that game will actually be played tonight, 8:30, and the winner takes the division. So if Jacksonville wins, you see they're division champs. If Tennessee wins, they're division champs. If there's a tie, it should be Jacksonville, because they would have the better record. So that's kind of what's up for grabs for for those two teams tonight. So, yeah, Tennessee would be eliminated with the loss. I think Jacksonville still has a weird outside shot at the 7th seed, and they do. Okay, so if they were to lose today, they wouldn't be totally hopeless. It would just be mostly hopeless. So we're going to go on to the Kansas City Chiefs. They can obtain the 1 or 2 seed, and now with these games, you go to the AFC playoff scenarios, and it's NFLplayoffscenarios.com that I pulled up. Yeah, the Chiefs get the 1 seed with just a win. That's pretty much it. Or the 2 teams tie, or just a Buffalo loss. So either win, the Chiefs win, Bills loss gets them there. The 2 seed, a little bit more involved. They would have to lose. Buffalo would have to, quote unquote, not lose, win or tie. Or if the Chiefs tied, the Bills would have a shot with a win. And so the Chiefs Raiders do play tonight, so that could be a pretty clear picture. If the Chiefs win, they're guaranteed the number 1 seed. If they lose or tie, then yeah, Buffalo would have a shot at the 1 seed with a win, or perhaps even a tie if the Chiefs were to lose. So that's the Chiefs scenario. So I kind of covered the Bills scenarios for the most part. So they could end up 1, 2, or 3. They have the most mobility here. Of course, the 1 seed we kind of just talked about. If they win and the Chiefs lose or tie, or if they tie and Kansas City loses, the 2 seed, if they win or tie, but Kansas City basically wins, in case a tie, Kansas, they would go to the number 2 seed. If they won, it wouldn't really matter what would happen with Kansas City. If they lose, they'd also have to hope they're definitely number 2 at best. They would also have to hope that Cincinnati Bengals does not win. And 3 seed, the worst case scenario seeding wise for them would be a loss by them and a Bengals win. So that's what it would take to get to the 3 seed. Okay, we'll do the Bengals. The Bengals can't get the number 1 seed. Best they can hope for is 2, and they could possibly get into 3. So for 2, they need a win and the Bills loss. It's pretty straightforward. And then for the 3 seed, they could end up that with a loss by themselves, then automatically they're the 3 seed. Or just if the Bills win, they're stuck. Or just don't lose, really. They're stuck at the 3 seed. So that game kind of puts them in that kind of position where they're just stuck with the 3 seed. And we'll get into more complicated scenarios with the Bengals in a minute here. This is kind of interesting. The Ravens for the 5 and 6 seed. That gets kind of interesting with them. To get the 5 seed, they have to have a win and the Chargers loss or tie, or if they tie, they'd have to have a Chargers loss. For the 6 seed, they lose, they're the 6th seed. If the Chargers and them tie, they're the 6th seed. If the Chargers win, they're automatically the 6th seed. So a loss by them or a win by the Chargers puts them in the 6th seed. So that'll be that. Kind of like the Chargers are kind of just like they're under similar circumstances. Yeah, they win, they guaranteed the 5th seed, or if Baltimore loses, they only drop to the 6th seed. If they lose and Baltimore doesn't lose, or if they tie and Baltimore wins. Alright, so that's the Cincinnati Bengals, Ravens, and Chargers. Okay, the Titans for the 4 seed. That's their only chance really, is to win tonight. That's it. And if they don't do that, they're done. They're eliminated. Jacksonville, we're going to get into them. They have a shot mainly at the 4th seed, but there is some outside shots at the 7th seed. We'll cover their 4th seed potentiality, even though we kind of already did that. They win or tie, they get the 4th seed. If not, they're in this mess for the 7th seed, and we'll go through all 4 teams that could obtain the 7th seed. Patriots have the most straightforward opportunity. If they win, they're in. I guess they could also lose and have the Dolphins lose, the Steelers lose, and the Jaguars win, and they would get in, or tie, or they tie and then have Miami lose and tie, or Pittsburgh lose and tie, plus Pittsburgh lose and tie. Okay, that's mainly, it's just like winning or in. That's the main thing. The Dolphins have to hope for a win and a Patriots loss or tie, or a tie and a Patriots loss and a Steelers loss. So yeah, they're the next most likely, I guess, to get in. They need the least help. They just need the Patriots to lose and for themselves to win. The Patriots can just win. The Dolphins can win and get a Patriots loss to Steelers. A little bit more direct path. They have to win and basically have Miami and New England lose, or have ties, I guess. And then the Jaguars, they could get to 7th seed if they lose against the Titans, and all hope is not lost. All you have to do is have the Dolphins, Patriots, and Steelers all lose. So that's pretty much that. So yeah, just to sum it up, Patriots most direct path with a win, the Dolphins a win and a Patriots loss, and then the Steelers a win plus Patriots and Dolphins lose. That would be the most direct path, not thinking about all these ties. Okay, so now that that's all the seeding scenarios, we're going to get into neutral site. Okay, so in order to try to be more fair, they came up with this solution, and it's not really necessarily always fair with what they had to do with the Bengals and the Bills and the Chiefs. If anything, the Chiefs are probably getting the most benefit, the Bengals the least, given all these scenarios. But I'm just going to try to cover the possibilities of a neutral site per this chart that I got off of like Boston Channel 10 NBC News, a picture of it. So basically, there's the only way we get a neutral site is if it's Bills versus Chiefs or Bengals versus Chiefs. It's the only possibility for where you could even get a neutral site. If the Chiefs don't get to the AFC Championship game, there's no neutral site. And if the Bills and Bengals don't play the Chiefs, there's no neutral site. So if it's Kansas City versus anybody, Buffalo and Cincinnati, or if it's no Kansas City, there's no neutral site. So let's just focus on, this is Bills versus Chiefs, AFC Championship game. What could possibly produce a neutral site? So the things, to simplify this, the things I would look for is say, okay, so if the Chiefs win, all you got to do is pay attention to see if the Bills win. If they both have the same outcome, then it's a neutral site. Same thing with the loss too. Really, if the Raiders were to win, it's LV, and the Bills were to, and the Patriots were to win. So if the Chiefs were to lose and the Bills were to lose, you'd have a neutral site. So it's really, if you want to think of how the AFC Championship game could be neutral for Buffalo versus Kansas City, it's really Chiefs and Bills have the same result this week, win-loss. And I believe also that's true for a tie, even though they don't have that in this chart, because this chart would be like 25 times the size that it is now. And then the Bengals and the Chiefs. So there's only one possible outcome for a neutral site. The Chiefs have to lose, the Bills have to lose, and the Bengals have to win. In that case, a Bengals-Chiefs game would be a neutral site. Okay. And now for the last thing I'm going to talk about is this whole coin flip deal. So the Bengals are awarded division title, and they are locked in as the 3 seed. But the NFL said, well, if the Ravens beat them this weekend, they'll beat them both times, have a head-to-head sweep, and they'll have the same number of wins as the Bengals in that case. So if the Ravens were to win, yeah, they would be. I gotta make some other things happen here. Okay, so yeah, 6-3, so they would be 11-6. The Bengals would be 11-5. They said if the Bengals and the Ravens meet in the wild card round only, and they end up being 3-6 with the Ravens winning that regular season game, they will flip a coin to determine who gets the home field in this game. I don't know when they're going to flip it. how they're going to do that, who's going to call it or what. I assume they would, if the Ravens win, they would come out with the captains at midfield after the game and have like a coin toss like I would do for the opening kickoff. But I don't know that. I don't know if they would do it at a separate time. It would just seem like with everybody there, all witnesses, all team captains, owners, whatever they need to be there, television cameras to capture the results. It seems like that would be the best time to do that. So, yeah, in order for that to happen, really two things have to happen. So, yeah, Ravens beat Bengals, of course, is the main thing, and then the Ravens end up as the 6th seed. So it would really be if we get Ravens win, Chargers win, you get this scenario. If anything else happens, if the Bengals win or the Broncos win, either or, so you see, if the Broncos win, the Ravens would become the 5th seed, the Chargers would become the 6th seed, and this wouldn't matter. And this wouldn't matter for later rounds. So if the Bengals were to win and the Ravens were to win, let's say right now, and the way this is, let's say whoever the 7th seed is beats Buffalo. So the 7th seed would play the Chiefs, and the Bengals would play the Ravens in the divisional round. They wouldn't flip a coin for that. It would only count for the wild card round, not any potential matchups further down the line for the divisional playoff or the conference championship. Of course, if they were to meet in a further round anyway, that would involve the Bengals beating the Ravens, because if the Bengals... Oh, no, it wouldn't. No, because the Chargers could... Yeah, because the Chargers could also lose. Right. Yeah, so, yeah, any further down the line, if the Ravens do beat the Bengals, let me correct myself, then, but they end up becoming the 5th seed, and these two teams meet on a further round, conference championship, divisional round, there will be no such thing as a coin flip. So it's only if Chargers win and Ravens win. That would be the only way we're going to have this coin flip scenario. So I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen, but that would be the only thing. Yeah, it's a lot on the Bengals because they're complaining they would get the first place schedule, which I'd say, yeah, for the most part, teams that were first place last year aren't next year. But then again, this is the AFC with Buffalo and Kansas City. They'd be guaranteed to play them with the division championship now. So, and they could start on the road in the wild card at Baltimore and potentially have to go on the road the whole time, depending on how things shake out. Some other people said, they could be on the road in the wild card round and then host the divisional round. Well, that's a possibility now for teams anyway. If 5, 6, and 7 all won, one would play 7 and 5 would host 6, and 5 was on the road the week before, so that's not totally impossible. But that's all the scenarios. So hopefully I made some sense of that. Very convoluted and confusing, but given these extreme circumstances, I guess they're just trying to make it as fair as they can, and there's no real perfect way to do it. Somebody's going to get the shaft one way or the other, some more than others, and some are going to benefit more than others, no matter how you do it, really. So, hey, let's just focus on the big thing that Damar Hamlin is doing well, and leave it at that. And everyone, good luck to your teams in the playoffs.